So recently, People Can Fly, the developers behind Outriders, have announced that they're suspending development on Project Gemini and Project Bifrost, and they are also going to be kind of scaling back their workforce. Now, you can read the entire published statement on your own, but this is not a great sign for those who are interested in the possibility of Outriders 2 happening one day. Now, many of you watching this probably actually found me from Outriders itself. It was honestly the looter shooter game that really launched my YouTube channel. I had obviously covered other games beforehand, but Outriders was the one that got me YouTube partner and probably got me my first couple thousand views over here on YouTube. So hearing this news really makes me sad and doesn't make me feel too hopeful at the chance that Outriders 2 could happen one day. Why am I making this video? I kind of just want to talk about Outriders and the entire journey that game went through, how we essentially got to this point where the chance that Outriders might not happen now. Before I get into everything, know you can follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Byrdman778. Leave a like on the video. Let me know something about Outriders that you loved when you were playing the game. Subscribe and become a member. So Outriders actually had a pretty tough launch, but before that, it actually had a lot of good hype behind it. There was actually a demo of the game out that people were able to play. You're able to do a couple missions and do some side quest stuff that kind of just gave you that first little taste of what the gameplay would be like, give you a first little taste of the different characters and their abilities and everything, and essentially just set you on a path of hey, this can be your expectations for when the game launches. Me, myself, I was immediately addicted to this game. I probably put a couple hundred hours into the demo alone, just farming and farming specific bosses to get, different legendary items so I could look at the different perks that were going to be on those, so I could start theory crafting and everything. It was an amazing time within the community, because the community of Outriders was growing by the day. I would almost say that I think that the demo was almost a bad thing for them because of the fact that it just started up so much hype for this game that I think it eventually led to the demise when the game actually launched. What do I mean by that? I mean for the fact that the servers and everything involved with it were completely overloaded at launch. So many people weren't able to get in the game, multiple days of just unable to log in or do anything. And then eventually hit a point where people who actually got in the game and got loot and all this other stuff end up having their inventories wiped for, different unknown reasons that just kind of happen on the back end in development. This turned off a lot of people and kind of just, hurt the game in the long run. And at the same time, within that period of time, the developers were scrambling, trying to fix everything rather than focusing on the good quality of life stuff that you typically should do when the game launches. Now, for me, I didn't really personally go through a lot of these issues. I was able to kind of just hop in and play almost immediately with no problem whatsoever. But I saw a lot of people around me being affected by this, so I could definitely understand the issues that they were going through in that time and how that kind of just soured the entire experience for them. But at a certain point, the game hit a really good stride and was able to, get its legs under itself, be able to handle the big capacities, and the community itself grew and grew. And there's a lot of fun people in that community. Me, myself, Chadley, Moxie, Abby Hour, we were all thriving in this game. I mentioned those guys because they were my friends now, and then also the people I was playing the game with. And each of us kind of found a character that we really liked and honestly kind of became the voices behind those characters later on. Me, as you can see by the gameplay on screen, I was a Devastator main. Devastator was my baby from the get-go, and I had just so much fun with this character. And the game itself really hooked me with not only its high difficulty and skill cap and everything, but also just how unique each player was, each character, how Devastator was different, how Technomancer was different, how Trickster, how Pyro. All of them had these unique and different abilities that really made them shine, especially in expeditions. Now, obviously, I was a Devastator main. Devastator, I won't even lie, was on the bottom of the totem pole for everything, but at the same time, I was able to probably survive better than any of my other friends that were doing stuff. They were all glass cannons versus me, who might not be outputting a whole lot of damage, but I could last longer than the rest of them in a fight. But during this time of happiness and people starting to love the game, we found out something pretty unfortunate, and it was the fact that the developers themselves kind of acknowledged the fact that this was pretty much the game. We weren't going to be getting anything else. There was some ideas and talks of a DLC down the road, but at the same time, the developers were hey, this was our project. This is everything that we wanted the game to be. Here you go, and that's it. With this, a lot of players got turned off by it because they kind of felt like they finally had that, I wouldn't say Destiny killer, but a game that could be right along with Destiny and be a live service game and constantly get updates and hot fixes and changes and stuff like that to really make itself shine amongst the other looter shooters within the genre. But the team was very, stern and focused on, hey, we're really not going to be doing a whole lot more stuff with it. There wasn't a roadmap. There wasn't any microtransactions in the games. There wasn't like weekly updates. Like when we got updates and stuff, it was a big deal. But within that time, I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm going to keep grinding out content. I'm going to keep my, Twitch chat going, everything like that. Hopefully at a certain point, People Can Fly will recognize that there is an actual community for this game. And then they're going to, continue it on and do some more updates to it. But unfortunately, at the moment, we didn't really have that confirmation. It wasn't until the New Horizon update where we actually got some new stuff for the game and got an idea of what the, overall roadmap for the game was going to be. Now, keep in mind, the New Horizon update launched, nearly a year after the game had actually, started. And it wasn't really a whole lot. It was 4 new expeditions, plus some changes and buffs and nerfs and stuff like that within it. But that alone was enough to revive the community from its its lowest point. I myself put a lot of time in the New Horizon update. I was constantly grinding the new expeditions, looking for fun secrets, testing out builds, everything like that. And pretty much all the same players that I was talking about before, like the big creators, came back to the game and were covering it. There was some life in the game again. And we also got information about the Outriders World Slayer expansion. Now, when World Slayer was announced and launched, there was a big hype and hope that this was going to be, kind of like Destiny in a way where they, had an expansion. It was going to be just kind of like a once a year big drop that was going to have a lot of content that was essentially going to hold you over until, they release another expansion afterwards. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Before I get into that stuff, let's talk about World Slayer. World Slayer was actually a pretty good time. Now, I didn't really care for the story. I didn't really care for how it extended the story at all, because to be honest with you, the entire Outrider story barely made sense to me anyway. And it was the gameplay, the loot, and that grind that really held me there. With World Slayer, we obviously got more expeditions added in, more weapons, new abilities like our PAX tree that was able to expand upon the already skill tree that we had. We got Apocalypse gear, which added another perk onto items. It was honestly amazing. Like the Buildcraft 3 crafter community was on fire. It was amazing. We were also introduced to the new endgame piece, the Trials of Tarja Guitar. Essentially, this was going to be multiple different rooms that essentially you would do different, essentially clearing the rooms and doing different activities. And then there'd be a chest at the end that might have better chances at, that legendary Apocalypse loot that you really wanted. Going into it, there was this kind of idea that this was going to be an ever-changing, almost like roguelike experience where every room you went into was going to be different. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But at the same time, the content itself was pretty fun. We were introduced in 2 different boss types and also kind of got a bit more of a giant arena setting versus what we had for the endgame bosses beforehand. At the end of the Trials of Tarja Guitar, there was honestly a cliffhanger of your character, your Outrider, and exactly what was happening. Learning the mysteries of what the planet you were on, Enoch, what was going on and everything, and that was pretty much it. Once World Slayer launched, People Can Fly went silent again. We really had no idea what was going to be going on. There was going to be more content added on or anything like that, and then eventually found out that, World Slayer is it. Now, they said World Slayer was it, but at the same time, there was kind of this hope that, okay, World Slayer sold pretty well. People liked it. People already loved the base game. There's going to be a part where People Can Fly and Square Enix recognized, hey, this is exactly the game that we need to do to, compete against Bungie with Destiny, compete against I would even say games like Borderlands with Gearbox. We finally kind of found our looter shooter diamond in the rough, so let's expand upon it. So when People Can Fly announced Project Gemini and Project Bifrost, which again, we really have no idea what those were, or we don't even know what they are today. There's a lot of hope that, oh, hell yeah, Outriders 2 is possibly one of these. And, maybe we might be getting, this here in the future. And time had passed and we really hadn't gotten a whole lot of information. And now People Can Fly announced this update saying, hey, these 2 projects are done for. Now, we have no real confirmation that this is Outriders 2. They could still be working on Outriders 2 for all we know, but when a team like this is, that's not really even that big on its own, is scaled back, and you have 2 projects that are just slashed, and they kind of have a game out right now that they have in development, again, Lost Rift, that you know, I think it looks really cool personally, kind of a survival game. I've been on a survival game kick, but having that be your focus versus, you know, possibly Outriders 2 does not give a whole lot of hope that we're going to be getting this game again. And for me, that's kind of a huge disappointment. I mean, I would literally do anything to get Outriders 2. I would cut off my own foot to ensure that I got it, because that game, I mean, every time I play Outriders 1, I just get this huge nostalgic burst in my blood, and it's just a great time. The gear is amazing, the trees make sense, the characters are a lot of fun, and how they expanded upon all those things in World Slayer gave me a lot of hope that they're like, they understand how to continue to develop this game and make it better. But unfortunately right now, we're kind of just sitting here waiting for actual confirmation from People Can Fly that Outriders 2 will not be happening. But it doesn't give a whole lot of hope when you already are seeing 2 other projects on the chopping block. So what do you guys think? Do you think Outriders 2 is a possibility? Do you think that we have pretty much gotten all the Outriders that we ever might get in the future? Me personally, I don't know. I really hope just somebody recognizes the potential of this game and, you know, buys the IP, or, you know, feeds into People Can Fly and publishes for them, or something where this game is able to continue on. Because again, I promise you, the entire looter shooter genre of players will absolutely jump on this again at the opportunity. Let me know in the comments down below if you think Outriders 2 is going to happen. And again, what's your favorite Outriders moment? I would say my favorite Outriders moment was when I figured out the bleed tree at the very beginning of the game. I remember doing so much build and theory crafting beforehand, and I absolutely was the first person to snag that. I loved when my chat was calling me the dev daddy, just because, again, Devastator's my boy through and through. Like, I think I've maybe only had like, you know, 2 to 3 hours on any other character, and the rest of my time is purely on Devastator. Also, give a like on this video, subscribe, and become a member if you want to support the channel, and follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Byrdman778. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope Outriders continues on, and I hope you have a great night, day, or whatever it may be.